Hello! Lavos is here today to talk to you about elements. Uh, Mostly because he'll be very good at showing them off. So let's get over to the simulacrum and we'll have some actual lessons to give out here. Alright, first off, we'll start with the physical ones. They didn't change much recently, but just for completion's sake, because I haven't done a previous video on it. We'll start with impact. I brought some nunchucks here. Impact is a not terribly useful status, outside of very few niches. Even the thing that just caused the armor strip is not the impact status, it's the Shattered Impact mod, which is based on impact damage. Main thing with impact is it will very quickly make some enemies vulnerable to the Parazon finishers. Yeah, it's hard to see, but it will lower that little triangle in there. Actually, when it wears off on him, you can see it jumps way down to the 25% mark from the almost 75% it was at. Probably in general, it's going to be easier to tell on these guys. No, it doesn't actually work on butchers because they can't be mercied. It's only the heavy ones. So yeah, you don't generally see a lot of that. It staggers them too, but impact is probably the least useful status in the game currently, and even as a damage type, it's very niche in its modding applications when you would ever use it. Moving on to puncture, we're gonna have a guest lecturer here for a second. Alright, so puncture, I've actually thrown this up. This is Jade's new bow. Puncture reduces their damage output by up to 80% and increases their critical chance up to 25%. Jade's bow particularly puts 7 stacks puncture status. It does not reduce the target's damage output by 100%, despite what that says. I'm not sure why they put down there, but... And then Chroma here, because other than this bow, which is in itself kind of questionable, you can use Thunderbolt to make the puncture kit everything when the arrow explodes, but Chroma is one of the few people who can actually inflict puncture into a range of people. That's basically the only time the puncture status is going to be terribly useful in a lot of cases, is if you can actually trigger it on multiple people for the accuracy thing. As part of that, we are going to get a new battle group. We'll let them move. You can kind of quickly see they slowed down significantly in their ability to damage me. Not completely, though. So yeah. It's kind of dicey. But yeah, there's a little bit of survival going on there. Some of that's just Chroma. Chroma's not that easy to kill. It's power crept, but he's not useless. And now we're gonna have another guest teacher for Slash. Guess who? For Slash, so Slash is a little bit of a complicated one. Many people will tell you about the viral Slash meta, but won't actually tell you how that even works. Many of them may not know how it works. So, Slash, when the status is inflicted, it takes, I believe it's 30% of the proc. I mean, they've got pretty good explanations on the tooltips now, so I can probably go find it. Yeah, it doesn't tell you that specific thing. But yeah, it takes about, I believe it's about 30% of the hit that caused the slash proc, and then it inflicts that as a bleed over time. The bleed is not slash damage. It used to be true damage. It's not that either, because it doesn't ignore shields anymore, only armor. So it's its own weird little damage type. Slash is not really been nerfed in this update. Enemy health went up a little bit, so Slash technically went down. Takes a little longer, but so is everything else. Slash has been kind of gradually getting nerfed since give or take 2020 or so. Mostly there's two things you'd use slash for. One's to get by armor, because the bleed procs ignore armor. That's been much, much less of a concern, certainly by the time the Helmet School and the Unero Universal Armor Strip came in, and Companions can armor strip now, and green shards. It's very much not been a big factor. If you're trying to bypass armor, it's because you've chosen not to strip it, rather than you had to. The other sort of nerf, or the other factor of slash, not a nerf, is you don't use slash to make slash. Slash being used to bypass armor, slash is typically not good against armor, and that's continued into the damage rework. It's good against infested, not against Grenier. So if you hit a Grenier with slash, the usual armored guy, you're not going to get good results because your hit's not going to do damage, and then the proc is going to have reduced damage as well. The reason slash is so often come up as the main damage over time is there's a lot of ways to force a slash proc on something that's not a slash hit. There's Hunter Munitions, very popular, forces it on critical hits, which means you don't even need to status build. Several melees have stances, generally on heavy attacks and ground finishers with force slash procs. And what we're looking at right now is Garuda, who can mark people with her 4 to force them to take a slash proc. So I've got those grades. They are normally very burny, explosive things, as you see there. When I head down here and throw my 4 onto some dudes, yeah, let me see if I can do that again a little clearer. So yeah, that's going to put 3 onto him. Now there's 5. You can see the big one from the bomb is the 7.3. And he's bleeding away there. Probably won't get there completely because we didn't use viral. That's what slash does, and that's why you don't generally see a lot of slash mods and slash builds. Or really like a status slash based melee. You'll see like a critical two-handed Nikana because it forces on status attacks. So yeah, none of the physical ones are particularly strong. All in all, at the end of the day, the reason slash stands out is it's a damage over time that you can force to inherit from very large hits. Moving on to the elements now. So we're back with our man Lavos. This is a Cernos Prime with basically no modding on it. It's not going to throw any elements up at all for us. So I have total control over the elements. We're not going to see some random cross-pollinations going on. Just going to redo these guys. So we got a few different elements. Something didn't work with my spawning there. The dog might do something. There we go. First off is electricity. This does some damage over time, as you can see. It will briefly shock them. It will chain out to other guys if they're close enough. Electricity does benefit from headshots, which is not universally true, so you can see we got 2.1k on those headshots. And if I go over to this guy and shoot him in the leg instead, we get a pretty measly 476. So yeah, headshots kind of crucial with electricity. It would also help a lot if these guys had armor strip. It is mostly beneficial against the infested and to some degree the corpus as a status. The damage type itself, I'm not sure anything's specifically recommended for it. I'd have to really double check the new map. Just respawn those guys. Oh, it should tell me here, right? They're corrosive. They're heat. These guys are magnets. Is it the murmur? Oh, yeah, the murmur apparently are vulnerable to electric. So yeah, let's go try it out on them. These guys are hard to tell because once you shoot their arm, they start bleeding to death anyways. Electricity, again, it's a crowd control effect, so it does have a damage over time, but you're not going to get huge results out of it, even if this bow was fully modded. Which I guess we can amp up the bow a little bit. We want... This will make the numbers look bigger. In a pseudo-fraudulent way. You can put that on. That's fine. Alright. Moving on, we got fire. Fire's got an interesting thing. If you hit something with a weapon that is set up to boost fire... Where is it? Not that one. So you can set up a weapon that looks like this. All these Bane mods and heat boosting mods. If you shoot an enemy with it and get a heat proc, that will snapshot all these mods with the bonus damage, and then everything that does heat after that will also receive those benefits. It's a bit of a weird way to play, but if you want to get the bonus day heat, that it is what you want to do. Now, and then that includes abilities, so you can, for instance, this worm can shoot his little missiles, he will prime a bunch of dudes, and then they will, like, eat shit at the end of the day. So I'll kind of show that off. So if you see, he will torch some dudes in a second here. He's on the run config. Professionalism. It's because of... There we go. If we go over here and let him torch up some dudes on the right... Okay, he's just not going to. Trust me on that, though, it works. Anyways, heat does this. There we go. That's much more effective because it reduces their armor, which the electric does not. Again, if you shoot a dude in the leg, if it's super crits, it will work like fine, but it's another one where it does want you to have headshots. You can see like he's got 3, 4K, 5K. Yeah, 6.5K. Once all the procs gather together. And there should be another bombard. There he is. If I shoot him in the head. 67K. Headshots matter. you want to do the status over time stuff. Moving on. We're gonna grab Toxin. Toxin is much like Heat. It does not have that priming effect, so you don't need to futz about with that. Big thing with Toxin is it ignores shields. So let's grab some Corpus. To a large extent, making magnetic semi-completely useless. They did make magnetic cause you to do more damage to Overguard, but Magnetic's something we'll talk about magnetic when we get there, but Toxin. Yeah, you can see that just goes right through his shields. And basically immediately destroys these guys. And the thing with Toxin is resisted by armor. So if we pop back over to the Grenier here. Not nearly as effective. Still do it, particularly if you get headshots, but I'm just kind of seeing it's less effective. You're far better off going into Heat because the Heat will cut through the armor. I also need to turn off the dragon because he's decided he's going to do his thing now. Then over to Cold. Cold's going to be a hard one to show off properly. So when you get 10 cold procs, they freeze up like this, and they will take allegedly Mondo crit damage. 23k orange crit. If I let his proc kick down. 18k. So yeah, there's a decent chunk there. It's like 20-30%. I heard some people say it does double the crit damage. That I think is a misstatement unless you're Frost. Maybe some people got confused with. Certainly not my experience. Thing is, if you're gonna do bows like this, you can kill them apparently. 2 quick shots and then another one to the head with the real shot. But yeah, thing with Cold is it's not extra damage after. It's just the what you got to start with. I've seen some people recommending Cold go with gas as a setup. It works technically. Again, it's not something I've found super effective. It's a novelty. I keep going to that one. All right, that's our basics. Now we're gonna move on to the first one here, Viral, everyone's favorite. Viral by itself, kind of unimpressive as a damage type. It's apparently good against the Corrupted now. But it makes you do Mondo damage to their health, and spoilers, the end goal is always to get their HP to 0. Not their shields, not their armor, not anything else. Which means Viral is still king and probably always will be as long as that's its effect. The other big thing with Viral is you infuse it. So if we put our Viral onto a dude, and then we hit him with Heat, he is fucking toast, and that applies to all the other damage over time as well. Viral Heat is what I would currently call the meta. As much as I hate that term, it's not terribly applicable. The game's too varied to have a most efficient tactic available because it's going to depend on what you're fighting in, what circumstances you're fighting in. But yeah, if you straight up want to fucking kill something, it's going to be viral heat. And really doesn't matter what the faction resistance is either on that one, as much as you might think. If you can pull it on the Corpus, viral toxin is better because of the toxin going through the shields. You need very specific weapons to do that, though. It's future Seth dropping in. One thing I did kind of downplay that is worth consideration. Viral heat versus blast. To make viral heat on this, for instance, which is the stat stick for my Atlas, would require 3 mod slots. Obviously, blast only requires 2. That is a consideration. It's not one to downplay either, because there are other things you may want on there in some cases. Stat stick is a very specific case because it only applies to 4 frames, and it's a particularly niche way of building things. But yeah, if you don't have room for the 3 statuses, you can do this. The other one, which this also takes advantage of, is if you're planning viral via your companion, blast is a very good solid option there. And can help you out a lot. You can still also arguably go with corrosive heat and stuff like that, or just straight up heat to get fully burning as hot as you can. But yeah, blast does have the benefit of only needing 1-2 mods instead of 3,
All set.
which is a worthwhile consideration. That's all. Back to our regularly scheduled program. Okay. Toxin version 2, now with electric. This one's pretty basic. It does corrosive status. It's a very good damage type for cutting through armor, but you can see their little shield goes down. It's actually hard to get enough on them to not just kill them. And my lava says green shard, so you can go above 10 for an actual 4 armor strip. Corrosive, very good against armor, basically useless in other situations. Which armor is considered the big hurdle to overcome in a lot of cases. They did, you may have heard they nerfed armor. That really only applies at rather extremely the high levels of relevant content in the game. So corrosive still very much is going to be your friend in those situations. That said, you can do viral and heat and blast through probably faster. Again, I would like for viral not to be the answer to everything, but it's you can't fight damage to the final health bar bonus really at all. Then we have gas. Gas is a weird one. It deploys this funny little cloud. Actually still tremendously hard to see, even though they tried to improve it. I had to double check that wasn't mine. Oh, I'm not actually deploying the gas. There we go. Yeah, it'll get the job done, these guys, because they're not steel path for the most part, but gas really wants to be paired with an armor strip. And you can't pair it with heat, and you can't pair it with corrosive because the element's required for it. There are gas builds. They are very niche. It is another one that benefits from headshots. Again, it's the thing you can make work, but you'd have to have extremely clumped up enemies. It generally doesn't help a lot. It's best against the infested, both because they're vulnerable to it and because they tend to clump up for you. gas was changed, but they just made it more visible. They didn't actually change the effect. Magnets! That will do absolutely nothing to these guys, so I'm going to spawn something else. Magnets, a big thing, is that it boosts damage to shields and stops them regenerating and junk like that. But also boosts damage to Overguard. It does not do more magnet damage does not do more damage to Overguard. You have to get the status to boost the damage. Just to clarify that, I've seen a lot of people get that one wrong too. So that's really going to depend on your mileage, how far that takes you. Because now the effect of magnet's already gone, you can see. We're down to just his health, which is getting rocked by the electric because I broke his shield, which is a new thing. By the same token, I can infuse poison, and it will just fucking kill him. Magnet's one of those. If your weapon starts with innate magnet, or you want to get a Cougar or Tenet weapon that has innate magnet to kind of give you an edge on the Xmas, cool. There's also a secondary arcane now that does something similar. I wouldn't recommend building into it by any means, though. It's still very niche in its use. This is everyone's new favorite, Blast. It's more blasty. What does that mean? If you shoot a guy and they get up to 10... If you shoot a guy and they get up to 10 procs, or they die, you get an explosion. It technically boosts the damage, but it's got nothing on viral for that. The explosion's kind of tiny. Trying to get one actually to go off. Yeah, he hit his buddy. Not for a whole lot, though. Armor mitigates a lot of it. Highly situational. It's not viral heat. It's not shaking up the meta. It's not redefining the end game. Blah blah blah. Clickbait, red letters, so on. It's a nice side grade option. It has that vision. It's got the curb appeal, as I like to say. You get to see the guys fucking explode like that, which you do not with viral. Viral has no visual effect of any kind. If I leave you alone, you should just explode. Yeah, there it goes. But yeah, big like chain lasers like the Tenet Galaxian or the Tenet Cycron or the Atomos and stuff is the best to do it because you can get multiple enemies going off at once, bouncing on each other. Lavos can do this, but that's Lavos. But yeah, Lavos can do shenanigans with it. Most other people can't really get much effect out of it. It's also, if you watch my video on the acid shells, it does the same thing with the gathering stuff. When enemies are in vortexes or larvas or not down on the ground from a Neros' tornado and so on and so forth, it has a notable tendency to just decide not to hit them. Which they've mentioned they're working on, but there's still no fix as yet. So yeah, Blast will look cool. It's not going to be your super meta option. It is there though. It's also generally neutral to everything, and actually boosted against Deimos infested on the Cambion Drift. So go hog wild with it there. Just any if you anyone who's saying it's like big redefining state is probably talking out their ass. Last but not least, radiation. Radiation's going to be a little hard to show unless I turn the AI on, I guess. The effect of radiation is basically that it makes the enemies kind of randomly target whatever happens to be around. You can see once I get this on, they just all start like shooting towards each other and shit. Instead of me. That has its uses. That's it. It's not like completely useful. As you can tell, these idiots are fucking shooting me instead of each other. Fortunately, I can basically stand here and big thing with radiation, when you use it on infested ancients, they drop their auras and stop supporting nearby units. Very handy with disruptors, because suddenly the enemies, you know, stop draining your energy every time they hit you. Anyways, the other status is... Can I get it? Oh, I think it procs on him. Oh, that's a trick. There it goes. Void status, which attracts projectiles. It's very neat with that little operator disc when it goes off, because it just keeps spinning and hitting them and hitting them. The only way to inflict void status with normal Warframes is by using Zaku with Zada's Whisper, or infusing Zada's Whisper via the helmet system. Not one you see a lot. There's a couple other statuses in the game that are not elements as well. You can't actually include them. So they will count for condition overload, stuff like lifted and microwaved, if you know what you know what those are. Alright, so that's been our status workshop. And we'll just clear these dudes out. See, that combo's neat with the blast and the viral, but you're gonna have you have to do a lot of weapon switching and get that if you're not Lavos.
Attack us, and we'll counter.
Anyways, if you found this informative, liked, enjoyed it, maybe want to see more, do a follow, subscribe, let me know in the comments. Feel free to correct me if you can find verifiable information that I've gotten something wrong. Don't just tell me some guy said in his video or on Reddit or something. I ideally want to see the wiki, or I ideally want to see DE, not the wiki, because I've caught the wiki being wrong too. And we will catch you in the Atlas video, which is either going to come out before or after this one. I'm not sure. And then after that, I might do Jade, because she'll probably have settled down in terms of any patches by then. And have a good rest of your weekend.